Hello everyone, Zellerant here, and for today's video on Arknights Endfield, as we are just about 8 hours away from launch, I thought I'd go ahead and take a look at the tier list they have here on Prydwens, as they have just updated it here very recently. And I didn't really get to participate in the second beta, I was in the first one, and I thought we'd see where they kind of placed them based off of the beta. They even mentioned it themselves. You're going to have to take all this with a grain of salt, as this is going off of the beta and the only kind of endgame-ish mode that they had available at that point in time. This is all very subject to change, but it's good to kind of see. One of the big reasons being, if you see my last video, we've got some more confirmations, it looks like, that they had kind of mentioned here, and I'll be making another video on launch once I'm able to verify it myself. But it does look like you will not be able to do the salted email reroll. There's not going to be any way to delete account data. And so if you really want to reroll, you're going to have new accounts every time that you, or new emails every time you do a reroll, which means once you finally settle on one, you're having to use whatever this random email you made up as being your main account. And I really hate that with games. And so I almost certainly will not be rerolling. So what's good with this tier list is it can actually give you a good idea, if you're not rerolling, what you kind of have or what you're working with and the teams you might want to build, because they do have a team tier list as well. And since it's more focused on the beta, or more of the early game and that kind of early game end game content, I mean, I say early game end game, the early end game once you get to the end game, and what might work just based off the beta's feedback, and then it can evolve from there over time once we get to the true end game hard content. And so let's just go ahead and see, looking right at it, right off the bat, the nice thing I like to see, and the units I always, especially right when a gotcha comes out, the most important to me are always going to be your buffers or supports. And of course, the free one they're giving us, Ardelia, is right at the tippity top. Now, I believe when I looked at it, they mentioned she just can literally fit in any team currently. And so she's going to be just your generic support, which means I feel like even though she's going to be tier 0 right now, those ones, especially since they're giving her free, I'm very suspect that will eventually get dedicated, which, I mean, this is how all gotcha works. We'll get dedicated supports to specific team types, meaning she works with everybody right now, but she will be power crept in all the teams over time as new ones come out. But very, very good. She's right at the top. Going to be great to put in pretty much any team, which you'll see in the team tier list, and you will be getting her for free. And then the main damage dealer, like all gotcha games, usually the strongest DPS is the very first banner, but they do fall off fairly quickly. But if you like Leviathan, you're going to be able to build the top starting team with her right off the bat, which is really, really good. Although my favorite, and the one I hope I get, the one I would have rerolled for if I rerolled, would be Last Right. Now, I will be doing quite a few pulls because I want to get a lot of that weapon currency off the operator pulls, so I might end up with her regardless. We'll just kind of have to see. But she's at the top as a main damage dealer. Then you kind of have the other ones. In the first beta, I got to play with her a bit. She was quite fun. And right now, I believe she's the only electric. So there is no 6-star. So you're going down the route here. You have her as your fire, ice, electric. And then you have the administrator as a physical main damage dealer. And Dalpan. And I'm going to butcher all these names. They're it's probably going to be worse than Uma Musume looking at some of these names. And then you have Wolfguard as another burn. So if you don't really go with her, they have him rated fairly low. Who knows how he'll be at the end game, though. He could be much better down the road. And it does look like they kind of have on certain units separate, as you can see here, as main damage, they have him as 1.5, but he can be a supportive damage alongside, I'm going to guess, her for the full burn team. And then you have your support damage. Of course, you have Pogron, Ichin, okay, whatever. I just call him Pogron. I don't know. There's probably another name people are giving, but you have him up here being a good support physical. So that can work. You can probably pair him with the administrator here. Have some of the other 5-stars. I didn't play with the 5-stars all that much. I think she was the main one, but that's because we didn't really have any other electric options. Then you have Life Ang here. Pretty much probably the lowest, I think, on the group. It almost reminds me of, man, I forget the guy's name in Wuthering Waves, the one with the lion hat thing or whatever, was the one nobody wanted to see on the standard banner. I wonder if that's going to be the case with him. But I don't know. I have no idea. I did not get to play them at all, so we'll have to see. But right now, they kind of just have them kind of rated low for the 6-star compared to some of these other ones. But I will say, when you look at their list here, because I do have Gilberta here in tier 1, and they do make note of it. One of the big things is, one, she worked with, the best team she worked with is Yvonne, which you can see is not on here because she's getting a major rework. And so she really doesn't fit in a team at this point. It doesn't necessarily mean that she's bad. It's just she doesn't really have a core team that makes her very valuable right off the bat. But she's a support amplifier, almost certainly going to get moved up once we have an understanding of like her team. So don't take, like, she's going to be definitely a very big pickup. I will definitely be pulling. I almost always love to pull my supports because what the supports really do is allows me to be selective on my main damage dealers or whatever one's going to be my favorite. And then if I have most of the supports, I can make my favorite work depending on what I have. So I think that's the only one here. And they basically mention it up here why they have her there. So like I said, this whole thing you just have to take with a grain of salt. It's just to kind of give you some ideas going into the game at launch, what you're working with in terms of what units maybe you want to build around. And then we have Ember here, also kind of tier 1. I think what I've heard, I've never got to try her as well, is she's kind of that tank, and in the early game, you really only need her if you just don't want to dodge, or she can kind of take all the damage, but if you're good and you can just not take damage, then she's weaker than, say, using Leviathan or someone else who's going to be a core damage dealer, but maybe a little bit more squishy than she is. And I could see that being a thing with the survivalists. I don't know. They might build content around you needing them, though, versus just being able to try and ignore damage by just avoiding it. But we'll see there. Now, they do have the team tier list, and this is one that can kind of give you an idea right off the bat with the early operators, what you might want to build. Nice thing is, no matter what your luck is in terms of what you pull right off the bat, you will have teams that fit into this tier list that you can build. Of course, the top one being right off the bat, Leviathan with her. If you pull her, you'll have the entire team for her because she's the only 6-star gotcha that you have to get. Ardelia will be getting for free, and the others being 4 and 5 in this initial team. So pretty good right there. Then you, of course, have Last Right. Same situation. You just need to get Last Right. You get lucky and get her off the standard banner. Free Ardelia with your other 2 5-stars that hopefully you should get. We should get all of them through pulls, as we're guaranteed 5 stars as you're pulling up on banners. And then Endman Physical. And so this one, if you end up with the other 2 6-star physicals, one of those being the ones that you get off their beginner banner, then you can always go the direction of building out your main damage dealer as the administrator for now, paired with Ardelia. And then when you have, and this is more if you skip Leviathan and you don't want to use her, this will be a pretty good team until maybe a unit that you like comes out. And then your only real electric option with her and her full team, completely no actual 6-stars in it. It's all 5 and 4. And then if you don't want to use the administrator, you do have Da Pan Physical, which they have in tier 1 alongside it. Ardelia, and then of course your supportive damage dealer can always still be the administrator or one of the other 6-stars. And then you have your Wolfguard, which is kind of, they're having shown is more of the weaker on that side of the damage dealers. But this is the only place that I see them using Gilberta at this time. So that's why we kind of have to wait and see how other things evolve, because this is all going to change once we really get to the true endgame. Kind of same thing down here. You have another cryo team with the other main damage dealer, but she's a 4-star if you wanted to build around her. Kind of similar, I believe, up here to Last Right. You have a little bit more options on them, but they are at that tier 1.5. And so right now, that's kind of the early look at Prydwens tier list. It is what it is. We're not going to have true details until we really get to that true end game. So don't be too worried. Right now, just go ahead and play with your favorites. I know when I was testing it out in the beta, I just threw random people together that didn't even jive together just to try them out, and it was completely fine. You won't really have to worry about till the end game. And because the reroll, which I'll be going over this probably right before the game releases. I'm going to start live streaming as soon as I get off work. It's going to be very tedious to reroll, so you're just going to have to make work with what you get initially, and then just conserve your pulls. If you don't want Leva 10, just save pulls up to guarantee another unit that comes out. But that'll be it for now on Prydwens tier list. Tell me what your thoughts are on all the characters come out, especially if you participated in the second beta, since I was only in the first. But that's it for now, and if you like my content, if you could like, comment, subscribe, it really helps, and thanks for watching.